Spectrum of the community expressed their frustration over these delays and the impact they had had on the community at a standing room only July 30th town hall at Bethesda Temple Church, widely covered by the media, including ABC, CBS, Fox, and NBC. The burden of these unexplained delays should not rest on the shoulders of the Crenshaw Corridor community, which acted in good faith and supported this historic project. If the city fails to provide a complete and substantive response to this correspondence within 30 days of the date of this letter, the Crenshaw Corridor community reserves its right to pursue all of its rights and remedies. Sincerely, the Crenshaw Corridor community. To read the complete letter detailing all of our demands, go to our website at kbla1580.com. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Lady LL.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. I have a quick editorial. Filed with prejudice. Brown versus the Board of Education began second Reconstruction. It is being ended the way the first one was, not by repeal, but by withdrawal. On August the 6th, in the United States District Court for the Western District of Louisiana, the Department of Justice and the Bossier Parish School Board jointly asked a federal judge to dismiss with prejudice a school desegregation case that had been open since 1964. The Attorney General of Louisiana called it a victory. The superintendent called it a monumental day, 61 years after federal supervision ended in a filing you could read in just 4 minutes. Let me define the terms, because in this case, the terms are the entire argument, and they're coming to a local school district near you. Unitary status is the legal filing that a district once segregated by law has eliminated the vestiges of that segregation, root and branch, in student assignment, in faculty and staff, in transportation, in extracurricular activities, in facilities. Green versus County School Board gave those 6 factors in 1968. For 58 years, a district got from under one decree the only honest way, by proving that it had cured the disease of racial segregation. With prejudice means the case will never be brought again, not by those plaintiffs, not by their children, not by their grandchildren. Bossier Parish proved no cure. In July, the Fifth Circuit held in the Concordia Parish case that when the remaining parties agreed to end the legislation and the litigation, the district courts must let it go. That was a procedural holding. The court did not find that the effects of segregation had been eliminated. It found that no one was left standing in the doorway. No one was left alive. And who were the remaining parties in Bossier? Just the United States government and the school board. The parents who filed in 1964 are all dead. The children named in that caption, minors of the Lyndon Johnson, when Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, could not be located. That's the whole story. And it fits in one sentence. The decree was not satisfied. It was outlived. Look, 12 minutes down the road from the reasoning that did it, in Concordia Parish, Faraday High School is 92% black. Vidalia High School is 62% white. The record described black mold in the air conditioning, lead in the water, unsafe playground equipment. No court has said those conditions were ever remedied. The court said the doors closed when the last adult in the room stopped objecting. Nobody repealed Brown versus the Board of Education. Nobody has to. Understand what Brown actually is, because our habit of calling it a school case has cost us. Brown did not amend anything. It reinterpreted. In 1896 in Plessy versus Ferguson, the Supreme Court read the 14th Amendment to permit a state to separate its citizens by race. In 1954, the court read the same 42 words to forbid it. Not one syllable of the Constitution changed in those 58 years. What changed was the meaning the government agreed to give it. And every hour of the movement that followed was built on that new meaning. Montgomery, sit-ins, the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, Title VI, Title VII, Title IX, fair housing, open contracting, the disability statutes, all of it stands on Brown's reading of the 14th Amendment. Brown versus the Board of Education began Second Reconstruction in the way that the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment began the first, which tells you exactly how Second Reconstruction ends, because we've watched the first one end already. The Reconstruction Amendments were repealed. Cruikshank, the Colfax case, the civil rights cases gutted the 1875 Act in 1883, but it was always Louisiana. Cruikshank in Louisiana, Plessy was Louisiana, Calais, the voting rights decision was Louisiana, and now Bouzier is Louisiana. Here's the mechanism, and here is why it outruns any one school district. Our rights extending instruments, decrees, consent orders, preclearance formulas, enforcement offices are built to expire. They carry sunset clauses, standing requirements, mootness doctrines, and plaintiffs with mortal bodies. The injuries that were built to answer have no sunset clause at all. Segregation does not die when the litigant dies, it inherits. Remedy decays on a human timetable while the harm compounds on a generational one. That is the moral parenthesis, and dismal with prejudice is the ratchet welded shut. No count. What sits on the foundation being shaken. Title VI conditions every federal dollar in this country on non-discrimination, and its authority is Brown's reading, not its own. The same argument is emptied in Bouzier's file. This old, this expensive, this takes power from local communities. The complainants are all gone. It is available against the police consent decree, the Fair Housing Covenant, the employment order, the environmental justice settlement. Watch what the government stops doing, not what it says. So, we stop asking courts to protect us with instruments designed to expire. This Constitution guarantees no citizen the right to a public education of equal high quality, not one. Even Bouzier had its interference and its inference and enforcement discretion, and an inference can be reinferred. Article 5 is still open, ladies and gentlemen. That is the answer to a courthouse that closes. I'm hoping that some political party, preferably the Democratic Party, where I find myself situated, will fight for constitutional amendments going forward, because it's time for a permanent change, not a change that expires. More on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
The KBLA 1580 app puts the realest conversations right in your pocket. Stream live wherever you are in the world. No static. No searching the dial. A crystal clear connection 24/7, exactly when you want it. We recommend that you keep automatic updates enabled. Set it and forget it. So the app stays up to date with store requirements, bug fixes, and new features as we roll them out. Download the KBLA 1580 app today and stay plugged into the conversation everyone's having.
Indeed presents hires you can't afford to get wrong, like public works supervisor.
Hey, this waterman is under a ton of pressure. Did you ever fix it?
Yeah, 3 layers of duct tape. Wait, should I have added a 4th layer?
This is a job for sponsored jobs. This is what happens when you don't sponsor your job on Indeed. Next time, get matched with quality candidates with Indeed sponsored jobs. Visit Indeed.com/hire now and sponsor your job today.
Back to school starts now. Get long-lasting battery life on the Dell XPS laptop powered by Series 3 Intel Core so you can work from anywhere. Now starting at $699 with exclusive student pricing starting at $599. Complete your setup with savings on select monitors and must-have electronics and accessories. Limited time deals and free shipping on PCs and more await you at Dell.com/deals. That's Dell.com/deals.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
We've had neighbors who have had the garbage truck potentially swipe their vehicles because if you park just a little bit too much into the street, you're at risk of getting it hit. If you park too much forward or back, you can't get in and out of your own driveway. And if you're late for a meeting or an appointment, pretty big deal. I really hope we never have a major emergency on this street because being able to get fire department in and out would be very difficult. Personally, while the project goes well beyond anything that my husband and I are facing personally with our home, we do have a very large project within our house. We are very blessed to be in it, but it needs a completely new foundation. It is currently slipping into Crenshaw right now, and we cannot do that work because a concrete truck can't come in to actually do the work. So it's a bit scary for us in that manner. But there have been, there are numerous things that I know we will hear about today that everybody is facing on a daily basis. We really look forward to hearing what everybody has been going through and then trying to find a way to get the construction complete and move forward.
Making sure they follow through. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk to me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Moving Mountain Mondays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and that places us on time and firmly in Mr. Krim's classroom. Ernest Krim, welcome forward to the show.
Hey, what's up, brothers? What's up, brothers? Back here with you.
Man, I am glad to hear from you, and I'm really glad you're here, and I hope you had a wonderful time off. Ernest, let me ask you a question. You're a school teacher. You know what it means to have a segregated classroom. You know what it means to not have the resources, to have fresh water, to have fresh food, to teach children who don't have equal opportunities compared to other schools in this country. What does it mean, from your perspective, when the decrees and the court itself no longer makes federal enforcement of the separate but equal doctrine, which was replaced by equal protection under the law in the 14th Amendment? What does it mean when the federal government is willing to outlast the plaintiffs in a case so that they can no longer bring the action? Ernest?
I think it sets dangerous precedents. And to me, what it means is if we just don't talk about things that are bad, if we just continue to ignore it, then eventually the problem won't be solved, but the problem will just go away. You must have us having to have discussions about it. And I think it's particularly harmful because with us, Black folks, people of color, we are going to be the ones who deal with the ramifications of this most. We understand that over the past 50 some odd years that nothing has been done proactively to remedy this. And in fact, it's gotten worse. When I think about this on a school level, what this means is we continue to have schools that are primarily underfunded in our communities, but because there aren't signs up anymore that says Black children here or Latino children here or white students here, that is not looked at as that much of an issue. But growing up on the south side of Chicago, I can tell you from experience that our schools are still suffering. This is not an issue of Black children needing to be in diverse spaces as much as it's an issue of Black children needing to have equitable funding. And I want people to really pay attention to what you wrote, because I think what this sets is a precedent that can continue for the next 50, 60, 70, 100 years, that says that issues like this that we bring to the forefront, albeit important, won't be resolved because they'll just wait it out for the person to pass away. And that's an unfortunate reality that we've been dealing with even since the origin of this case.
The example that I'd like to use is where congratulations is in order. KBLA's continued advocacy for Destination Crenshaw has led to immediate activity by the city, by the mayor, by local elected officials to open up parking lots, which is a significant accomplishment, but it came from advocacy. Tavis still has a body, he's still living, he has a platform, we have airways, the case has been made on every single program, and for more than a month and a half, Tavis has been agitating the system. What happens in these local cases, particularly the federal ones, but any of them for that matter, when we lose our voices of advocacy, when they just wait us out until we're hoarse or until we're no longer living?
To me, what this feels like, and I think that it's important for the listeners to understand the symmetry here. You know, what happens in Crenshaw, what happens on the south or west side of Chicago, what happens in the boroughs in New York are all interconnected. And on a grassroots level, for me, if we don't get the right people in school board elections, which are also coming up, just like we have congressional elections coming up, then we'll have we'll have people who are working against our interests, and they will cite things like this, or they'll have this to back them up and say that this is not necessary, or this is not a pertinent issue. If we don't continue, in my opinion, to find ways to have needs assessments and ways to highlight the gross injustice and lack of funding and divestment that our communities are facing, then we won't even have any proof to go to these different levels of government to show that this is a very pertinent issue. Again, y'all, when we think about segregation and through a current lens, I want you to think about the fact that so many Black folks throughout this country feel the need to cross different borders, whether it be suburban towns or nearby towns that are predominantly white, just so that their children can get an equitable education. And that should not be the case still.
You know, I want to comment on this because there's a subtext to what KBLA has done in Crenshaw, and that's this: that they can outwait us so long that we ourselves adjust to the injustice. In this case, we have a Black mayor, we have Black elected officials in the Los Angeles area who control and theoretically run everything. But if we don't ask and demand that the schools be fixed, or that the streets be opened, or that the parking lots be restored, or that a fund be created to reimburse businesses for their losses because of a construction project that never commenced and everyone turned their back on, we can't blame white folks for that. That's like Black folk have adjusted to the way in which we expect services, and then we might as well just be a horse, and I do mean by horse, HOARSE, like as in a hoarse voice, not have a voice or be dead, and simply walk past the same problem every single day without raising a single question. I'll never forget in 1995 when I first ran for Congress, there were no barriers separating 45-mile-an-hour south Lakeshore Drive traffic from 45-mile-per-hour northbound Lakeshore Drive traffic. The physics of that say that if there's a head-on collision, that's a 90-mile-an-hour collision. And it happened. Jonathan got up every Saturday at Operation Push and over and over and over again demanded the T-rails between the northbound traffic and the southbound traffic. And to this day, those T-rails are still standing, separating northbound traffic from southbound traffic. We had plenty of Black congressmen, plenty of Black state senators, plenty of Black state representatives, but no one just opened their eyes and saw a profound problem that was center of our neighborhoods. Ernest?
What you said is so profound to me because I think that it illuminates how we have to be aware of how politics work on every level, right? And even me, the beneficiary of this, and several and hundreds of millions of other people who traverse through this highway don't think about small things like that. I know I didn't. So now when I drive down there, I'm going to be thinking about just how important that is and just how important it is for us to look around where we are now and assess what has to be done and what must be done. Because like you said, we have grown adjusted to injustice. And I think that is one of the greatest crimes of living the segregated lifestyles we have, because we understand it has never been separate but equal. That has been the biggest lie of this whole thing. And one of the experiences that I had growing up that I often talk about is growing up on the far South side. I was bused to a community that was predominantly white and had better funding than the schools in my Black neighborhood. And although my mother especially hates that she had to make that decision and felt compelled to me, it opened my mind, though, because I wasn't limited to what my neighborhood showed me. Because oftentimes what I found while teaching is kids will think that all they see in their neighborhood or their block is all there is to life. Many of these kids wouldn't even have the opportunity or even imagine going to downtown Chicago or going to LA and just seeing, different walks of life. It's important because they have to understand that that's just not a product of destiny. That's a product of an intentional design. They were redlined to be kept away, and their tax money should, in fact, their money should be used to solve the issues that they face, and that cannot come unless they are exposed to something different, and that they are and if they are empowered to believe they can actually change it.
And we're not just talking about the classroom. And I acknowledge the benefits and the privilege that I've had growing up in my home. By the time I was 18-year-old, I could fence, F-E-N-C-E. I was a fencer. I had wrestled. I had played basketball. I had played football. I was a martial artist. By the time I was 18 years old, I had been exposed in each of these sports and disciplines and more to a different coach that had an impact on my life. And I can walk into public schools today that don't have a single coach, that don't have a single program that exposes a child between K grade all the way to 18. And by the time they're 18 years old and ready for college, what's the conversation that dominated our discussion 2 weeks ago in the national news at Tuskegee Institute? Should we allow do-rags, and should we allow bonnets and pajamas in classrooms? Because none of that stuff right there we had to deal with when we were exposed to people from K through 18. Does that make sense to you, Ernest? By the time we came into contact with our teachers, things were different. And that came fundamentally from exposure.
Oh, for sure. I want to first elevate the fact that I just met a Black fencer for the first time in my life. I didn't realize that I knew a Black fencer.
Saber and foil.
That's amazing. I think about that so much because oftentimes when we think about what we want our kids to become, it doesn't always have to be a straight line. Like, we don't have to say we want our kid to, be this doctor, so we're going to only expose them to medical professionals and things like that. It's expose the kids to something different. And when we're talking about segregation, we're not just talking about people being literally segregated by race. We're talking a segregation of opportunity. And a segregation of being exposed to different things. We're telling our kids K through 12 to go to college and do this, but because they don't have the exposure to what they can become or what they can do to solve the problems in their community, oftentimes that vantage point and that imagination is limited. Because when you go to college, you're taking on all these loans or whatever else that may come with it. And we might have kids who aren't making it out of that four-year institution or maybe the community college because they weren't given a clear idea of what they can become. We have schools across our community that were closed in mass about a decade or so ago. We have to think about what that means for kids. We have to think about what it means for kids to exist in schools as they return back, where they're going to be in class with 30 other people. because different positions were cut. So this is something that we have to stop putting the cap on the civil rights movement in 1968, 69, or 70 and realize that we have to continue that fight because so many things are being stripped away. And the last thing I want to say about it too is we should become aware of this term called benign neglect, because that is something that has been enforced in practice since then. During the Richard Nixon administration, essentially, if we don't talk about these problems, just like this court case proves, they'll go away, which means that they ignore us while they continue to enrich themselves in their community.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Listen, if you were at the Bethel Church and you heard Tavis and you heard the case of the business persons who were present and you see the action, you should download the app. Dominique DePrima, 6 a.m. in the morning to 9, Tavis Smiley, 9 to 12, Jesse Jackson Jr., 10 to 2 on the West Coast. Nee Cordelai Corte, as well as Zoe, we're all here advocating and strengthening the case that Tavis has begun on behalf of this community. Support KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app. Stay in touch with what the community leadership is doing to make Destination Crenshaw a reality and a real economic engine in a community that could not be more deserving. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. It's Moving Mountain Mondays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
It's Afternoon Drive Time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Michigan Democratic U.S. Senate nominee Abdul El-Sayed says he hopes former President Obama will campaign for him.
We talked a lot about what it'll take to win. Obviously, his presence here in Michigan would mean so much.
El-Sayed told NBC's Meet the Press he spoke with Obama after last week's primary win and called the conversation inspiring. A federal judge in Virginia has blocked a school board from restoring Confederate school names. The ruling says Shenandoah County violated Black student civil rights by reinstating Stonewall Jackson High and Ashby Lee Elementary. The district was ordered to rename both schools, but the board plans to appeal. And jury selection begins today in Las Vegas in the murder trial of Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, accused of orchestrating the 1996 killing of rap legend Tupac Shakur. Prosecutors are relying heavily on Davis's past statements about the shooting. He has pleaded not guilty and says those accounts were fabricated to sell books. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Recall 67A mobile appointments are now available in your area. We come to you quick, easy, and under an hour. Complete the recall to get $500 plus a warranty worth thousands. Schedule today at Cummins.recall.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers have generated some sad numbers over the past 2 weeks. Their 4-2 loss Sunday at Arizona capped a 1-5 road trip. The Dodgers are 1-8 in their last 9 games, and they are 5-10 since hanging out with Trump at the White House on July 23rd. The Dodgers are back home tonight to start a 3-game series against the Kansas City Royals. The Rams expect to have an answer later this week from defensive tackle Aaron Donald on whether he's coming out of retirement to rejoin the team. The 35-year-old Donald has been working out at the Rams facility. Rams head coach Sean McVay has not put a deadline on Donald to make a decision, although it appears Donald is getting close. The 10-time Pro Bowler retired after the 2024 season. NFL sources claim Donald wants to be sure he can play at a high level before telling McVay he's ready. Stay tuned. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
You can't fix what you won't face. And we face it every day. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the voice of reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
This summer, the Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich and Pineapple Dragon Fruit and Sprite are back at Chick-fil-A.
Girl, it's back. We've been waiting. I love that honey pepper pimento sandwich.
And that pineapple dragon fruit and Sprite is everything. It's got that razzle dazzle that makes you stop and say, okay, wait a minute.
I love the creaminess of the pimento cheese. It's savory, it's bold, it's flavorful.
Our faves are back. High five, girl.
Which fan favorite will you choose? Real customers paid for their testimonials.
You have something to say, and we want to hear it. KBLA Talk 1580 is engagement radio, not outrage radio. A place where your hopes, your frustrations, and your ideas are welcome 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Real talk, real people, real Los Angeles. KBLA Talk 1580, the station that sounds like the city looks. Tune in on your AM radio dial at 1580. Download our free KBLA 1580 app or listen live on our website at KBLA1580.com.
Unapologetically progressive.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Charmin Ultra Strong. You can use less, better than the rest. Charmin Ultra Strong. Your booty past the clean test. Charmin Weave texture, it's the best. Study up, teach a lesson on fresh. Your booty past the clean test. Yes, sir. Charmin Ultra Strong.
Charmin Ultra Strong with diamond weave texture cleans better than the leading one-ply brand, so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
What's good, KBLA delegation? I am Miles Lowe, and I'm excited to be joining the weekend lineup right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Join me every Saturday at 12 noon for the Do Better Show, where we get into the world of tech, AI, the creator economy, navigating your mental health through it all, and have conversations with founders to find out how real people are making real money right now. It's not a course, not a subscription. Class is in session every weekend, live on the air. So if you knew better, you do better, right? So let's make a better you. The Do Better Show, every Saturday, 12 noon, replaying again at 7 p.m. right here on Unapologetically Progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We got a lot to talk.
Ready for a weekend reset? Walk it out with me, Gina A. Towns, the artist formerly known as Gina Darby, on Reflectivity Beyond Black and White, as we seek peace, understanding, and healing beyond surface level perspectives, where reflectivity becomes our inner power and resilience to transform our lives and our communities no matter what. Meet me and my crazy cool guests. Join the Reflectivity family movement as we make sense of it all. Every bit, every morsel. We're going to nourish the mind, body, and soul unapologetically right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Every Saturday, 2 and 8 p.m. on the West Coast, 4 and 10 in the Midwest, and 5 and 11 on the East Coast. It's time for Reflectivity Beyond Black and White. It's not only hot, it's sizzling, and we're cooking.
This November, you'll decide who leads California. So shouldn't you hear directly from the people asking for your vote? Join us for California Voices, a political town hall and ballot forum, Saturday, October 3rd, 2026. Meet candidates running for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and other major statewide and local offices, including mayor of Los Angeles, city attorney, and LA County sheriff. Get clear, nonpartisan breakdowns of the propositions on your November ballot, both sides, no spin. And ask your questions directly, in real conversation, face to face. California Voices is brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the Empowerment Congress, giving you the information you need before you vote. Mark your calendar, Saturday, October 3rd, 2026, California Voices. Follow KBLA 1580 for details and download the KBLA 1580 app. Your vote, your voice. Be there.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. I was smiling from ear to ear. Creator of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, Miss Gina Towns, has her own show on KBLA Talk 1580. It is on Saturdays, and she has a new commercial that advertises her show. It's called Sizzling Saturdays, and I hope everyone within the sound of my voice will tune in to hear and listen to Gina's amazing guests. So grateful to Gina for the way in which she's structured our show. 8 hours of content every single week, Monday through Thursday, which very, very capable hosts, one of whom happens to be none other than Ernest Krim on Moving Mountain Mondays, Emmy-nominated producer, public teacher, anti-racist educator, hate crime victor who uses Black historical narratives to empower and educate through a culturally equitable lens. Mr. Krim is a South Side of Chicago native and a University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana graduate. He has created content for companies such as HBO, Hulu, Disney, Paramount, and the History Channel. Additionally, he is the CEO of Krim's Cultural Consulting, LLC, international speaker who's spoken at Harvard and the University of Chicago, Microsoft, Colin Kaepernick. He's the author of a number of books. Ernest, welcome forward to the show.
Thanks again for having me, brother.
Ernest, how can we support your work?
Oh man, that's a great question. And I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. I will say initially, some of you all know I've had some issues with Meta over the past year or so. I'm back on Instagram, but I would say that the best way to support me now is to ensure that you are signed up for my Substack newsletter at Krim's Class, because that way, if anything else happens, we can be in touch. And if you are able to, you can become a paid subscriber to my newsletter for only $5 a month. And if you have any work available you at schools, you need a speaker, consultant, of course, hit me up at ErnestKrim.com. We
all have a problem with Meta, by the way. I can't explain why my stuff doesn't get shared, why it gets shut down, or why I find myself in some kind of Facebook jail on the regular, but we keep it real and we keep it moving. Ernest, a major setback for education. We talked about it in the first hour. I know that you read the editorial before I delivered it here on the program. Was it insightful? Did it provide some sense of the structure of what the problem is going forward?
Oh, for sure. And I was explaining this to our producer, Gina, that that's something that has not come across my timeline. So what you provided for us was very important. There is so much going on. I know we say that a lot, but it's a lot to keep up with, which explains again and reemphasizes why KBLA and your radio show is so important, because we have to be aware of these things. Whether we are aware of these political decisions or not, we will still be impacted by it, which is what I always explain to people. Whether you know history or not, you are still impacted by the failures and the successes of the past. So this is something that we have to make sure our communities know. And also, too, the importance, like we said in the previous half hour, about mobilizing around these issues that impact us from Crenshaw to Chicago, New York, Philly, and beyond.
Ernest, these Supreme Court cases are devastating. And every one of these federal cases, from my perspective, I might be on the 10, I might be on 118 or the 110 in Los Angeles right now. And I might be saying, what the hell does a desegregation case in Louisiana have to do with me? Now, pay close attention now to the argument that I made earlier, that the Calais decision, the Voting Rights Act decision, was decided where? Out of Louisiana. Take and pay close attention to what's taking place in the state of Louisiana, because Cruikshank was a decision that limited federal enforcement in the states. It too came out of Louisiana. What else came out of Louisiana? Plessy versus Ferguson. Separate and unequal came out of Louisiana. And now Bouzier is coming out of Louisiana. And while Louisiana may be a wonderful time in New Orleans to have a great time and a great party once a year, or whenever we all go down there and do our thing for the Essence Festival. The politics that come out of federal cases from Louisiana have a detrimental effect on the caliber and the quality of education in every single state in the union. That's why we are highlighting what's taking place in Louisiana in the last week, right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
What's important about this framing is we have to remember what happens in Louisiana, what happens in Mississippi, California, Illinois, impacts us all. And we have to also keep in mind that oftentimes these Supreme Court cases or these trials, these are things that can be staged as to with the intention and goal of making a precedent at the Supreme Court level. I think for me too, I'm reminded of how, even connecting this to the Crenshaw conversation, there's a lot happening with these decisions. And schools, the back to school season is right here. We have to find a way to make sure our communities, of course, school would be a great place to do this, but our educators are inundated with so many curriculum goals and things like that. But we have to make sure our communities are aware of what has changed, if not just this year, but the past almost 2 years now, and how this will impact us. Because with the voting rights decision and this decision right here, it continues to disenfranchise us in ways that are, seemingly unimaginable. And I want to again remind people that we are in an era where these things feel very benign, but they impact us sometimes even more because we don't see and we cannot label the entities that are attacking us. We come from a people who understood, if I pass this line, I'm free. If I take these chains off, I'm free. If I'm able to tear down this sign, I can go in. But some of those same forces exist today, but it's a lot more difficult for us to attack it because we don't see the label. We have to begin to name these things clearly for the people in our community so that we can mobilize around these issues, if not for anything, for our kids.
I know we're coming forward in just a minute, but I got to take this opportunity just to bring to everyone's attention something very important, and that's this. In the last 6 weeks, we have heard Tavis Smiley advocate for change in the Crenshaw corridor. And now we see action. There would be no action if Smiley had not advocated for it. When we raise our voices and we come together and we shed light on a dark place, things begin to change. And that's what happened at that church when the local media began to cover it and the mayor began to respond and other elected officials began to respond. And I might add, even on the Nolan Wells case, we haven't heard a damn thing from Mississippi yet. They just wait us out till we get quiet. But then the voice of Don Lemon and hundreds of other voices on social media won't let it go. And so it's becoming increasingly clear that you may have a platform, you may have followers, but if you're not using your platform and your followers just for 6 weeks to advocate for justice, my friends, you too are part of the problem. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580. We're in the classroom with Ernest Krim. It's Moving Mountain Monday. More when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Someone had a birthday.
Yep, 50. Can't believe it.
50 years of wisdom.
Great segue. We have a health reminder from the CDC.
Pneumococcal vaccination is recommended for adults 50 or older. Says here, we're over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50.
I don't love those odds.
Same. Look what I found. Pfizer's Prevnar 20 is proven to help protect adults against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease in just 1 dose, and millions have already gotten it.
Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you have a severe allergy to its ingredients. A weakened immune system may lower your response. Common side effects include injection site pain and swelling, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138. Visit Prevnar20.com or talk to your doctor or pharmacist.
I'm on Prevnar20.com now, scheduling my appointment.
Good idea. and happy 50th.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The midterm elections are upon us. It is voting season once again. Common Cause's motto is fighting for the democracy we deserve. In service of that goal, Common Cause puts its state and national policy expertise, massive network of grassroots supporters, and nonpartisan approach into action to strengthen our democracy against the challenges we face today. They work at every level of government on priorities that impact each of our lives, like defending the right to vote, limiting big money's influence on our elections, holding public officials accountable, and more. Common Cause is a nonpartisan grassroots organization dedicated to upholding the core values of American democracy. They seek to empower all people to make their voices heard in the political process. This election may be the most important one ever. If you'd like to make a donation or volunteer in service to the Constitution, please visit commoncause.org. That's commoncause.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Knock, knock, Capital One Bank guy.
Wow, Charles Barkley?
I just moved into the neighborhood. Can I borrow some Wi-Fi?
Sure, Chuck. That's what the Capital One Cafe is here for, open 7 days a week.
Oh, can I use your ATM? My dog walker only takes cash.
Anything for a neighbor.
Can I try the catchphrase?
Sure, take it for a spin.
There's no fees and minimums on Capital One checking accounts.
Nice, Chuck. I'll take it from here. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Visit CapitalOne.com/bankguide for details. Capital One and a member FDIC.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
While Gavin was telling the story about the mural at LAX, I kid you not, Gavin, somebody just texted me a photo of it. See, this is unacceptable. That inside of LAX, they have a mural. These gorgeous, beautiful pictures of Destination Crenshaw. It don't look nothing like this. We don't know when they're going to restart or when they're going to finish, but they're marketing and promoting this inside of LAX. It's not right, y'all. It's just not right. You can't exploit us in that way, right? Get the project done, then you can brag about it. But can we finish it first?
Keeping them in check. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 Kick, volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the beat. Come on and talk to me. Come on and listen to the beat. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It is Moving Mountain Mondays. In the next hour, Reverend Teresa Terry Hord Owens is our regular contributor on The Faith Not to Fall. I want to talk with Terry today about definitions. Why rich people get tax breaks and don't have to do anything for them, but poor folks have a work-study program and they call it welfare. Both federal benefits, both come from the federal government. But for rich folks, it's called a tax break. But for us, whenever we get a break from the government, we have to work even harder just to earn the break that we get. We'll talk about that in the next hour. But in this hour, Ernest Krim is our regular contributor. And I'm particularly honored that Ernest Krim is our contributor on Moving Mountain Mondays in the classroom with Mr. Krim. Mr. Krim, welcome forward to the show.
Thanks again for having me, bro.
Ernest, let me ask a question. What are parents saying in this environment? What are they saying, Ernest?
You know, I think that the overwhelming feeling that a lot of parents have right now is a feeling of being just what I said, overwhelmed. It's a lot to have to grapple with. I was just in conversation with a principal and administrator about a week or so ago in the Chicago public school system. And her concern as a parent and administrator was the fact that they didn't know if they were going to have their budget in time for when school returned. And because of that, you know, their teachers and administrators weren't going to be able to have their typical inflation raise, right? And then also, too, the issue of, are my children going to then have everything and everyone they need when school returns, right? There are some schools now across the country, Chicago, beyond, where they'll also be losing because of the population drop or decline, assistant principals, for example. So I think for parents, especially you think about the summertime, you have your kids for, 2.5 months straight, and now you want to get them back into the routine of going to school. The question is, the concern is one of being overwhelmed, but the question also too is how much of this school dynamic is going to change for my kids, and also too how much of what's in place right now is actually going to help our kids, considering the political climate. Because with all of that even being said, you have a lot of social services being cut, and who's going to be responsible for solving that issue? Local PTAs, for example. But you also have a demographic who's losing jobs more than any other population right now.
You know, Ernest, I'm thinking that given this date in August, that parents are dropping their children off for school, that they are trying to get things together to ensure that their child has a first day of class that is memorable, that is thoughtful, and that prepares them for a future that, who knows, their parents may not live to see. But there's a lot of love, there's a lot of prayers being offered right now for families in this environment, hoping that ends are met, parents going to work, not wanting to worry about what's taking place at schools. And the burden then shifts really, again, to teachers, to coaches, to others, not only to educate, but in some cases, to provide basic things to students that they should have learned at home. What does today's student look like entering class in 2026?
Oh, man. We have a group of students who, in my mind, are recovering from a generation, we're talking Gen Z, Gen Alpha, where they were giving a very powerful tool at their disposal without any regulation or regard. And we're talking about cell phones now. There are various states across the country now, including Illinois, where students are coming back to school now where they won't be allowed to have these tools anymore. We, in my mind, sacrificed our kids' mental health and their ability to socialize properly because we gave in too quick. As adults, we have a hard enough time stopping ourselves from scrolling. What did we think was going to happen from 2012 to 2026 or even beyond that for some places where we just give it to kids without any regulation, right? So we are in a process now of not just making sure our schools and communities are aware of what's happening politically, but we have to also re-engage our kids on basic social skills and what it means to be in a social setting. What does it mean to connect with your peers? What does it mean to teach, to treat people right and not as if you are an anonymous person in a comment section? So that's another burden because the 12 years I was in the classroom, to me, compared to when I was a student, and this is the only thing I can compare it to, but those 12 years felt like 24 because I wasn't just teaching. I had to manage all of the other issues that came along with having 20 to 30 kids also engage with the outside world while I was trying to create my own utopia in the classroom. But I am grateful that they will exist in some places in an environment now where they can actually focus on the issue and begin to rebuild. But for our kids who are in the last 15 years or so caught within this social media experiment, we have a lot of work to do to help them out moving forward.
A New Mexico court ordered Meta to pay an additional $567 million, bringing the total penalties to $942 million over findings that the platform harmed youth mental health. So these students are coming. The students are coming to classes with their Facebook pages and with their Instagram pages, posting and not necessarily reading or studying. They're developing how to use their thumbs, but they're not developing critical thinking skills. And now some of the states are fighting back with a crib.
Yeah. I would just propose to people who are listening now, I'll never forget 1 year. I would say this probably was 2021. It was my last year in the class. And I would always have my kids do like a Who Am I project where they would have to create a collage or things like that. And there was a couple reflection questions at the end. And I had one student, she was a Black female student, so probably about 16 or 17 at the time. And she put in her reflection that she attempted, suicide over the summer. And that was something I will never forget. One, because she felt comfortable enough to share that with me, but also two, because I don't think it made me reflect on how much freedom we gave our kids to the detriment of their own mental health. We didn't have to deal with these issues, y'all, millennials, Gen X, boomers, and we have to do everything we can, not just for the political rights, but also to help them better socialize and help them understand what they dealt with.
I'm thinking in real time, Ernest, that our teachers' hands are full, and we ought to have a real rally for teachers, supporting them for the work that they provide at home. Ernest, thank you for joining us on the show.
Thanks again, brother.
I can't wait to see you next time. Up next, The Faith Not to Fall with Reverend Terry Hoard Owens. We're going to talk about definitions today. Definitions. You're going to want to hear this show. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Michigan Democratic U.S. Senate nominee Abdul El-Sayed says he hopes former President Obama will campaign for him.
We talked a lot about what it'll take to win. Obviously, his presence here in Michigan would mean so much.
El-Sayed told NBC's Meet the Press he spoke with Obama after last week's primary win and called the conversation inspiring. A federal judge in Virginia has blocked a school board from restoring Confederate school names. The ruling says Shenandoah County violated Black student civil rights by reinstating Stonewall Jackson High and Ashby Lee Elementary. The district was ordered to rename both schools, but the board plans to appeal. And jury selection begins today in Las Vegas in the murder trial of Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, accused of orchestrating the 1996 killing of rap legend Tupac Shakur. Prosecutors are relying heavily on Davis's past statements about the shooting. He has pleaded not guilty and says those accounts were fabricated to sell books. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Recall 67A mobile appointments are now available in your area. We come to you quick, easy, and under an hour. Complete the recall to get $500 plus a warranty worth thousands. Schedule today at Cummins.recall.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers have generated some sad numbers over the past 2 weeks. Their 4-2 loss Sunday at Arizona capped a 1-5 road trip. The Dodgers are 1-8 in their last 9 games, and they are 5-10 since hanging out with Trump at the White House on July 23rd. The Dodgers are back home tonight to start a 3-game series against the Kansas City Royals. The Rams expect to have an answer later this week from defensive tackle Aaron Donald on whether he's coming out of retirement to rejoin the team. The 35-year-old Donald has been working out at the Rams facility. Rams head coach Sean McVay has not put a deadline on Donald to make a decision, although it appears Donald is getting close. The 10-time Pro Bowler retired after the 2024 season. NFL sources claim Donald wants to be sure he can play at a high level before telling McVay he's ready. Stay tuned. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With the KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. August 5, 2026. Dear LA City Council President Marquise Harris Dawson, on behalf of a coalition of businesses and residents that constitute the Crenshaw Corridor community, we write to request that a concrete timeline and resources for fully completing Destination Crenshaw. Within a year, be developed and announced. A year is the outside time it should take, and we hope and expect that it can be finished considerably sooner. We also request the immediate establishment of a business interruption relief fund for the merchants, entrepreneurs, churches, and property owners who have borne the disproportionate economic burden of the prolonged delays associated with the Destination Crenshaw project, and a resident relief fund for the residents of the corridor who have been most adversely affected by the prolonged construction and delays associated with this unfinished development. Destination Crenshaw was presented to this community as a transformational investment in Black culture, Black commerce, and the future of South Los Angeles. It has now been 6 years since the project broke ground and over 2 years since the promised completion date. Construction has stalled with no apparent end date in sight. The Crenshaw Corridor community embraced the vision of Destination Crenshaw, but the obstruction from the delayed construction has caused prolonged health and safety hazards, uncertainty, reduced customer access, declining revenues, disruptions, and mounting financial hardship. A broad spectrum of the community expressed their frustration over these delays and the impact they have had on the community at a standing room only July 30th town hall at Bethesda Temple Church, widely covered by the media, including ABC, CBS, Fox, and NBC. The burden of these unexplained delays should not rest on the shoulders of the Crenshaw Corridor community, which acted in good faith and supported this historic project. If the city fails to provide a complete and substantive response to this correspondence within 30 days of the date of this letter, the Crenshaw Corridor community reserves its right to pursue all of its rights and remedies. Sincerely, the Crenshaw Corridor community. To read the complete letter detailing all of our demands, go to our website at kbla1580.com. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and listen to me. 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 Baby LA, top 50 down low.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We are in the Faith Not to Fall with Reverend Teresa Terry Ford Owens. More with Terry in just a moment. But I want you to listen to this really carefully. The same check, two different names. Listen. The same check, two different names. Begin with the definition because definitions are where the power hides. A tax expenditure is a payment the federal government makes by declining to collect. A deduction, an exclusion, a preferential rate. The money never leaves the treasury. So it never looks like a check. So it never acquires the smell of charity. It is spending that has learned to hold its breath. This is not coinage, definitely not my own. It is the government's own. Stanley Surrey, Assistant Secretary of Treasury under Lyndon Johnson, gave us the term to make a plain point. When Washington forgives $1 of tax to encourage a behavior, it has spent that dollar as surely as if it had mailed it. Congress agreed. The Congressional Budget Act of 1974 requires the Treasury to publish a tax expenditure budget every single year. It runs well past $1 trillion. It is printed, it is public, it is unread. So this country operates two systems of federal assistance, and the difference between them is not the money. And I certainly hope new members of Congress are listening closely. It is the vocabulary. because so much of who you will be as a congressman is largely determined by your understanding of this point right here. For the wealthy, they call it incentives. For the poor, they call it welfare. Only one of them is asked to prove it deserves what it gets. Now, the second definition is one that matters. A work requirement is not a work program. It is a documentation requirement. It does not create a job, fund a job, train anyone for a job, or place anyone in a job. It creates a form. Beginning January 1st, 2027, some 20 million adults in Medicaid expansion states must demonstrate 80 hours a month of qualifying activity to a state portal on a schedule without error or lose health coverage. The Congressional Budget Office estimates 4.8 million people will lose coverage from this provision alone, and that estimate was made before the June rule narrowed the definition of who counts as too sick to work. Consider what is never being asked of the other system. No one claiming the mortgage interest deduction submits hours. No one taking a preferential capital gains rate documents community service. When a state passes and the step up in basis erases a lifetime of untaxed depreciation, no caseworker calls to verify engagement. The heir does not volunteer. The heir does not have to. And here's the part that ought to stop us cold. Our tax code already taxes work harder than it taxes ownership. Wages are taxed at ordinary rates and hit the payroll taxes besides. Income earned by holdings, capital gains, carried interest, inherited depreciation is taxed lower, later, or never. We have built a code that penalizes labor and privileges property. And then we turn to the people we tax most heavily and inform them that their health care is contingent on their labor. We tax the worker, subsidize the owner, and then demand work of the worker as a condition of mercy. I've argued this before and I lost. In 1998, Congress attached a community service mandate to public housing, 8 hours a month from residents already living on the margin. I opposed it. I said that the government, which cannot supply the job, has not earned the right to demand hours. I, in fact, called it slavery by another means. 28 years later, the same premise has been laid on top healthcare. The intervening decades have supplied the evidence I did not have at the time. Arkansas ran this experiment in 2018. Roughly 18,000 people lost coverage. A federal court examined the record and found that the losses came not from idleness, but from paperwork, from porters that failed, notices that did not arrive, portals that did not work, and rules that assumed a reliable phone, a stable address, and an internet connection. The state did not discover a hidden population refusing to work. It discovered that eligible people cannot always prove they are eligible. That is the whole design. Ask the defenders of this policy how many enrollees already work, and they tell you correctly that most of them do. But if most already work, the requirement is not moving anyone into employment. It is filtering out the people least able to navigate a bureaucracy. The sick, the unhoused, the caregiver, the shift worker whose hours change every week. Benefit that must be continually earned is not a right. It's called probation. We've decided, without ever debating it, that some Americans hold their citizenship outright and others hold it on parole. The tax expenditure budget is the ledger of the first group. Medicaid is becoming the payroll file of the month. Both are federal money, and only one is asked to write a report. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., the Faith Not to Fall with Reverend Terry Howard Owens. We're going to be discussing definitions when we come forward right here at KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
The KBLA 1580 app puts the realest conversations right in your pocket. Stream live wherever you are in the world. No static. No searching the dial. A crystal clear connection 24/7, exactly when you want it. We recommend that you keep automatic updates enabled. Set it and forget it. So the app stays up to date with store requirements, bug fixes, and new features as we roll them out. Download the KBLA 1580 app today and stay plugged into the conversation everyone's having.
Indeed presents hires you can't afford to get wrong, like public works supervisor.
Hey, this waterman is under a ton of pressure. Did you ever fix it?
Yeah, 3 layers of duct tape. Wait, should I have added a 4th layer?
This is a job for sponsored jobs.
This is what happens when you don't sponsor your job on Indeed. Next time, get matched with quality candidates with Indeed sponsored jobs. Visit Indeed.com/hire now and sponsor your job today.
Back to school starts now. Get long-lasting battery life on the Dell XPS laptop powered by Series 3 Intel Core so you can work from anywhere. Now starting at $699 with exclusive student pricing starting at $599. Complete your setup with savings on select monitors and must-have electronics and accessories. Limited time deals and free shipping on PCs and more await you at Dell.com/deals. That's Dell.com/deals.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
And we are here on the chocolate side of Los Angeles to simply lift up black dignity, black honor. No spirit of hatred here. We here because we love our people. We love the people of this community. We love the people of every corner of this city. But some of us start on the chocolate side. And so all of the critiques, all of the calls for accountability have nothing to do with ad hominem attacks on any elected official. It has to do with either indifference or incompetence, maybe even corruption. We don't know, but we just want to make sure that everyday people in this community are treated with the dignity that they deserve. That's why we're here.
Holding them accountable. We're KBLA, Talk 1580.
Are you feeling the heat? LADWP can help you stay cool this summer and save money. Through the Cool LA program, eligible customers can receive instant rebates of up to $275 on new portable, window, and wall air conditioners. Shop the Cool LA Marketplace today and beat the heat and save. Learn more and apply at ladwp.com/cool-LA. That's ladwp.com/cool-LA.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're in the Faith Not to Fall with Reverend Teresa Horde Owens. Reverend Terry Horde Owens is the General Minister and President of the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ in the United States and Canada, an author and advocate for the church living out its calling. She's the first person of color and second woman to lead the denomination. Since her election in 2017, Reverend Owens' ministry actively reflects the disciples' priority of being an anti-racist church, being a movement for wholeness, welcoming all to the Lord's table as God has welcomed us. Terry, welcome forward to the show.
Oh, good to be with you, Jesse. I'm in my car in an undisclosed location. Undisclosed location.
It's great to hear your voice. Terry, I'm going to use the analogy, if you don't mind, and I'll take it slow with you, of shadow boxing. You can't knock out a shadow. You can box it all day. You can swing at it. It swings back at you. It's just hitting and we're going nowhere. It's good exercise. You know, if you're really seriously trying to knock your shadow out, good luck with that. But when I think about the moving definitions that the very wealthy in this country receive in terms of government expenditures, they don't have a label on them that suggests they're lazy, that suggests they're shiftless, that suggests they're dishonest. It's just a paperwork transaction, and the government calls that an expenditure. But when it comes to our Medicaid dollars, when it comes to our housing benefits, same federal government, same Treasury Department, they tell us we need to volunteer 80 hours a month to receive our health benefits on top of whatever job we're already doing. And we need, most importantly, to document it, upload it to a portal, fill out some form every month. And if we don't, according to the state of Arkansas and the statistics that weren't available to me when I was in Congress, some 18,000 people who got caught up in the bureaucracy of portals that were not working or documents that were not filed lost their benefits. This is deeply troubling, and I certainly know it's deeply troubling from the perspective of the church.
Oh, absolutely. It's reminiscent of the whole in the 13th Amendment that slavery was abolished except as punishment for crime. And we know that loophole has been used to cover a lot of things. I was listening to this great podcast, Reconstruction, The Unfinished Promise, produced by Barack Obama's production company, the Higher Ground Productions. And all of the, and you noted it in one of your editorials, the reinterpretation of certain language, the creation of processes that they know people cannot meet. It's not only choosing to mislead, but it's creating barriers that they know will confuse, terminology that they know will confuse, and the idea that one has to volunteer for 20 hours a month on top of any job, the idea that one has to earn what is a human right to be well cared for, to have access to healthcare is just really just a travesty. It's insidious in the worst way. But we know that the history of this country has been to reinterpret, to rename, and to confuse. And in order to sort of say, well, our hands are clean, we did this, here are the rules. Reconstruction is over, but all we did was go back to our separate corners. And slavery is technically abolished, but no one is any better than they were before. But we can check a few boxes. So I think it's just the insidious nature of racism and classism never really having been truly cleansed from the fabric of our society.
We have an entire vocabulary that has us boxing and fighting for terms, but there's no human rights standard that matters here. Now, you just brought up something that's going to get me in trouble, but I've got to touch upon it. I mean, we know the history from the pre-construction of the United States, the construction of the United States, the deconstruction of the United States, the Civil War, the first reconstruction of the United States, the intervening period of Jim Crow, then Brown versus the Board of Education, the second reconstruction of the United States. I can only think that from Brown versus the Board of Education to the present, that candidates that we have supported for office, since you brought up Barack Obama's name, this idea of extending second reconstruction should have been one of their highest priorities if they had even seen or felt that Reconstruction itself, in its second form, could ever be in question, the entire era that we're presently experiencing. And so I'm a bit taken aback when I hear that, Barack Obama's production company has done a video or a documentary on Reconstruction. The question then becomes, what did you do to extend second Reconstruction? And I do believe, for example, that Obamacare is a significant expansion of Reconstruction. However, it's a temporary expansion of Reconstruction because the Congress can obviously not fund it, amend it to death in whatever form it chooses, making it ineffective. What Joe Biden did to extend Reconstruction, I'm gonna be honest with you. I have no idea what he did. He did pass honorable budgets every year. He did do, what he was supposed to do. But the question is the consciousness that goes into extending these moments of expansion of human rights in the office itself is a factor in what we're looking at today in terms of our politics. Teresa?
Absolutely. I would argue that I'm not even so sure we need to extend Reconstruction so much as we need another Reconstruction. I think the agreements, the compromise of 1877, the deals that were cut under the table, the deals that are still being cut under the table, the really ended that commitment, let alone the programs. The commitment ended, and the commitment has never really been picked back up. The fights that we made and gains that we made in the civil rights movement, we're still having to claw our way back because the commitment was never lived into. It's really a soul issue. We never made the moral commitment for this kind of equality and this sort of equity for all people that we said we wanted to rebuild during Reconstruction. There was never a soul commitment to that. And so the programs easily went away once the self-interest of certain parties became really clear. And sadly, people have to keep navigating. I always ask myself, if you make a decision that doesn't make sense to me, that doesn't help people but hurts people, that doesn't move things forward, you've made some kind of decision that something is more important than justice or health care or moving the cause of Reconstruction and equity forward. And I always want to know, what is more important that you didn't do this? What's more important that allowed you to either keep your mouth shut or not be active? Something is more important, and I think we need to ask our elected officials, what is more important if you're not doing those things that we need you to do in our community? You're making a decision that something is more important, and I'm afraid that we won't like some of the answers.
In a real sense, we've seen some before, however we want to calculate it. It was violent. And the sentiment of the American people came to a crescendo in the civil rights movement when the American people saw the nature of the violence. And when they saw it,
History. This past weekend, I was in right outside Paris, Kentucky, at the scene of the Cane Ridge Revival, which happened in 1801. 20,000 people over several weeks. True Holy Ghost revival that ultimately leads to the start of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. That was a multi-racial, gender equality kind of movement. You have the Shakers building a community not too far from there. The Shakers were, if you don't understand them, they believed in the duality of God, believed that men and women should be equal in leadership, etc. But we had this moment that opened up. Azusa Street, Pentecostal, these windows that open where we see some hope and some commitment to equality. And then instead of subverting the hierarchies that are in place, we might see some changes, but we never really see a full restructuring or tearing down of these environments that create this inequity. So I hope that at some point in our history, we can get beyond just these little windows of hope and really do some damage to these evil structures that continue to oppress people.
Absolutely. It's going to be some hard work in our first hour. And I know we have 2 minutes before we come forward. We talked about moving backwards on Brown versus the Board of Education in the Louisiana case, another case that has struck, if you will, a dagger into the side of Brown versus the Board of Education. Madam President, I wasn't alive when Brown versus the Board of Education was decided. I don't think you were either, but it's been pivotal to our movement, wasn't it, ma'am?
Amen. And I really appreciated your editorial about the situation where the case was really just allowed to die. The people who brought it lived it. And once again, reinterpretation ruled the day, and people were patting themselves on the back by saying, oh, it's almost like we don't need that now because we've evolved and we've developed to the point where the situation is better. And the situation is not better. People continue to move, housing patterns are changed. Public schools are probably more segregated today than they were back in 1954 because of other inequities in the system. So it gave us an important moment, and now we see the Supreme Court continuing to reinterpret multiple rulings of the Supreme Court that are taking away Roe v. Wade, they're taking away Voting Rights Act. Reinterpretation can be a dangerous thing if you're not committed to the foundational principles of equity.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. We're in the Faith Not the Fall with Reverend Terry Hord Owens. She's the General Minister and President of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ in the United States and Canada. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. President Trump is signing an executive order changing the childhood vaccine schedule, including separating the MMR vaccine into 3 shots and spreading immunizations across multiple visits.
Effective immediately, my administration is recognizing gold standard childhood.
The administration is also calling for more research into possible environmental factors behind rising autism diagnosis. North Carolina Central University has officially opened its new Artificial Intelligence Institute. NCCU says the center is the first AI institute of its kind at any HBCU in the nation. And jury selection is underway in Las Vegas in the murder trial of Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, accused of orchestrating the 1996 killing of Tupac Shakur. Prosecutors have submitted a potential witness list with more than 200 names. Davis faces life in prison without parole if convicted. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Recall 67A mobile appointments are now available in your area. We come to you quick, easy, and under an hour. Complete the recall to get $500 plus a warranty worth thousands. Schedule today at CumminsRecall.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers have generated some sad numbers over the past 2 weeks. Their 4-2 loss Sunday at Arizona capped a 1-5 road trip. The Dodgers are 1-8 in their last 9 games, and they are 5-10 since hanging out with Trump at the White House on July 23rd. The Dodgers are back home tonight to start a 3-game series against the Kansas City Royals. The Rams expect to have an answer later this week from defensive tackle Aaron Donald on whether he's coming out of retirement to rejoin the team. The 35-year-old Donald has been working out at the Rams facility. Rams head coach Sean McVay has not put a deadline on Donald to make a decision, although it appears Donald is getting close. The 10-time Pro Bowler retired after the 2024 season. NFL sources claim Donald wants to be sure he can play at a high level before telling McVay he's ready. Stay tuned. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We don't do ordinary. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
Number 14. That's where Talkers Magazine ranked Tavis Smiley on their heavy 100 list of the 100 most important talk radio hosts in America. Join Tavis weekdays, 9 a.m. to noon or 9 p.m. to midnight, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
There is no denying that we've always been the conscience of this country. KBLA Talk 1580 is progressive talk radio built for our community, by our community, and with hosts who look like you, live near you, and care about what you care about. 50,000 watts of truth right here in Southern California. KBLA Talk 1580. Listen live on your AM radio dial at 1580 or stream us live on our KBLA1580.com website or on our free KBLA 1580 app.
Unapologetically progressive.
This summer, the Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich and Pineapple Dragon Fruit and Sprite are back at Chick-fil-A.
Girl, it's back. We've been waiting. I love that honey pepper pimento sandwich.
And that pineapple dragon fruit and Sprite is everything. It's got that razzle dazzle that makes you stop and say, okay, wait a minute.
I love the creaminess of the pimento cheese. It's savory. It's bold. It's flavorful.
Our faves are back. High five, girl.
Which fan favorite will you choose? Real customers paid for their testimonials.
Fridays just got better. What's up? I'm Amanda Seals, and this is your invitation to come and sit with me. Yes, get seated as I do my thing on KBLA Talk 1580. We're talking noon to 2 p.m., then back again 4 to 6 p.m. Same day, same station. Bring your opinions, because you know I'm going to have mine. Bring your questions, because you know I got answers. And bring yourself, because, baby, we want you to be authentic at all times. Fridays on KBLA Talk 1580. I'll be waiting. Join me.
What's good, KBLA delegation? I am Miles Lowe, and I'm excited to be joining the weekend lineup right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Join me every Saturday at 12 noon for the Do Better Show, where we get into the world of tech, AI, the creator economy, navigating your mental health through it all, and have conversations with founders to find out how real people are making real money right now. It's not a course, not a subscription. Class is in session every weekend, live on the air. So if you knew better, you do better, right? So let's make a better you. The Do Better Show, every Saturday, 12 noon, and replaying again at 7 p.m. right here on Unapologetically Progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We got a lot to talk about.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
Reverend Teresa Horde Owens is the General Minister and President of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ in the United States and Canada. She earned her Master of Divinity degree from the University of Chicago Divinity School, where she was a Disciples Divinity House Scholar and recipient of the John Gray Rind Award given to the top MDiv students at the Divinity School. Reverend Terry Horde Owens is a native of Terre Haute, Indiana, and a descendant of one of Indiana's oldest African-American free settlements. She earned her bachelor's degree in government with a minor in Afro-American studies from Harvard University. Reverend, welcome forward to the show.
Oh, thanks. It's always good to be here. Good to be here.
Reverend, how can we support your work? And then I have some questions about the church for you that I'd like to see if you can answer. Madam President, I think.
Oh yeah, I muted myself. Yeah. You can. Is there feedback? I'm hearing feedback, but that's okay. You can reach us at disciples.org to learn more about the church. I'm on all the social media handles. Facebook, I'm at Terry Horde Owens. Substack, I'm at T Horde Owens. Instagram at T Horde Owens. Those are places. My book is available, Staying at the Table, Being the Church We Say We Are. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere else that you get books.
Madam President, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, I think is critical at this hour. The church is kind of a bellwether on the nation's politics. Dr. King once said, as you well know, that 11 o'clock on Sunday morning is the most segregated hour in the nation. Now, you represent one of the most diverse congregations and membership anywhere in the United States and maybe even in the world. Let me state that clearly on the front side. Is this segregation problem, when we look at the case in Louisiana, when we look at the direction of education and the challenges to Brown versus the Board of Education, is it getting any better at the spiritual level? Or is it more of the same? Is it getting worse?
I wish that I could say that it is getting better. I think we, like most mainline Protestant denominations, we are, by the numbers, we have more Blacks, Hispanics, and Asians as a percentage of our total population than any of the other mainline denominations. But our congregations are still very segregated. 11 o'clock, 10, 10:30, whatever that hour is on Sunday, remains the most segregated hour in America. And the disciples are still more dense in terms of where our congregations are, kind of in the heart of the nation. In many of the states that we would label red states, we still don't have many multicultural congregations. That said, when we gather as a denomination, I think we've made real strides as a denomination to ensure at least representation among the leadership. I mean, I'm, the first person of color elected in 2017 lets us know that we've only made so many strides. And even though we have representation is better, I would still say that we are have a lot of work to do to fight against structural racism, even in our own processes. The patriarchy and the somewhat patronizing approach that people can take. I've been fighting this sort of post-racial assumption that, oh, we've elected a Black woman as general minister, and so therefore we've done the racism work. We've done that. We don't need to do this training and have these conversations, and we don't need the structures that we have in our search processes to ensure that we get equitable pools of people and that we can look at implicit bias, et cetera. So it's still very much a struggle, and as I said earlier, it's a soul issue. It's a spirit issue. There are too many people in churches who are there because they like the social and the social aspect of it. They want to maybe do a good project here and there, but they're not really sold out to the hard work of being who Jesus said we need to be. And that's true even in institutional churches.
But Madam President, you have had some successes.
Yes, we've had some success.
Obviously, you stand as a witness, a personal witness to the successes of a formula that's had to have worked. It's obviously the disciples have obviously held their arms open, have been open-minded to what may or may not be their own institutional shortcomings. My question for you is, clearly there are other denominations and clearly there are other churches that don't have the same level of open-mindedness or the aggressive, if you will, willingness to reach out. What advice would you give to these churches as you make the case, not only in the spiritual realm of our understanding, but obviously it has broader implications for when we leave church on Sunday morning and we interact in society?
I think one of the things that the disciples did was that they, and we're a very egalitarian church. I'm the general minister and president. I'm sort of the equivalent of the presiding bishop. I don't get to pound the gavel and make everything appear the way I want. So in a very egalitarian way, they voted to make this a priority as far back as the 1960s. They decided as a denomination that addressing poverty was going to be one of the first ways in which they would address racism. And institutionally, there are processes that demand accountability. If there have been inequitable practices in, searches for certain ministry positions, there's a process by which you can appeal to a governing body within the church if you believe that there's been some level of racial discrimination. Our clergy have to get ongoing, continuing education, not only around healthy boundaries, but also around racism and implicit bias. So we've created some means of accountability within the life of the church. And even though we have congregational polity, congregations don't have to do any of this. But if you want to be recognized as a clergy person within our denomination, whatever your congregation thinks, you're going to have to be accountable to some ongoing training and conversation. And by and large, those who are more active at the denominational level and the congregations that come to our general assemblies and pass resolutions to take stands on social issues, those folks are more engaged and therefore more educated. We just started a practice on our General Assembly online where we're breaking into small groups and meeting every year and talking about key issues that we think the church needs to address. Our issues this year, just a month ago, were what are we going to do about poverty and the issue around healthcare? And we had folks talking and discussing and thinking about it. And so we're trying to create ways where we're inviting the church to think and discuss and learn how to have the hard conversations, but within our institutions, also creating points of accountability and processes by which we can hold each other accountable. We can say all these things, but we have to hold each other accountable.
I was going to say that one of the obvious lessons is you all practice democracy. You have a voting system in your churches, and in the Black church, We don't practice democracy. We believe in the civil religion. I mean, we ain't got no problem going to vote. The politicians come speak on Sunday morning, but we don't believe in no democracy in the black church. No, maybe after we kick the pastor out, we'll vote on beginning a process to find a new pastor. But once we have a pastor, this is not a democracy. It's kind of a quasi-authoritarianism. And I'm not knocking it because, stony the road we've trod. It has seen us through something. But, this isn't democracy through and through. And so we still don't let women in the pulpit because there are more women in some of these churches than there are men, and they would outvote us if they could hear from a sister every now and again. Anyway, more on some of the lesson learned. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to KBLA Talk 1580. We're with Reverend Terry Hord Owens. More right here on The Faith Not the Fall in just a moment.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
Literally right in front of our doorsteps the last 2 to 3 years, we have been interrupted by this nightmare of a project called Destination Crenshaw. The desire was partnership at the onset, but we've seen broken promise after broken promise. We've seen our parishioners impacted. We've seen our peers and our local neighbors impacted directly by this. We've seen the crippling of the Crenshaw economy as a result of this project starting and then ultimately walking away. And we're not going to just lay down. We're not going to just, amen, pretend like nothing's happening on our doorsteps. And tonight I want to get out of the way because I want to hear from you. I can stand there as a pastor and tell you how many times we've been interrupted from our flow of worship, how it's impacted our ability to provide services to our community, how the blight and how the construction derailment has hindered our ability to amply run our food pantry programs, to offer summer camp programs for our young people, how the construction impacts just our ability.
Just call 800-285-3500, 800-285-3500. Don't wait, call now, 800-285-3500, 800-285-3500.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is connecting you with services and solutions. Domestic violence and family violence is when someone in an intimate or family relationship tries to gain or maintain power and control over another through a wide range of abusive behaviors. Every single act may amount to abuse. Abuse can take on various forms: psychological and emotional, physical and economic, and sexual abuse. The Genesee Center Incorporated is a nationally recognized nonprofit domestic violence prevention and intervention organization, housing women and children from 30 days up to 2 years through emergency and transitional shelters. The Genesee Center also provides support services like mental health counseling, life skills classes, computer training, job referrals, after-school programs for children, field trips, tutoring, and comprehensive direct legal services. If you need help or you'd like to donate or volunteer, call the Genesee Hotline, 1-800-479-7328. That's 1-800-479-7328, or visit Genesee.org. Everyone has the right to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Onyx, I keep having stomach issues. Please make me a doctor's appointment.
Okay,
Are you suffering from diarrhea, bloating, gas, or oily stools? If so, you may want to ask your doctor if it could actually be a problem with your pancreas, called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI.
My pancreas? How is EPI treated?
A prescription medicine like Creon, pancrelipase, is used to treat people who can't digest food normally because their pancreas doesn't make enough enzymes. Creon is the #1 prescribed treatment for EPI.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you are allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon. You can learn more at 1-800-633-9110.
Before your appointment, visit creoninfo.com. That's CREON info.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 Keep falling, drop your beat. Come on and talk to me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Reverend Terry Howard Owens is the General Minister and President of the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ in the United States and Canada. In keeping with the Disciples' historic commitment to Christian unity, she serves in leadership at the National Council of Churches and as treasurer of the governing board and a member of the World Council of Churches Central Committee. She is a major voice in the justice space. Madam President, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Oh, good to be here with you.
Madam President, speaking of justice, Todd Blanche today was confirmed as the Attorney General of the United States. We began this show by talking about definitions. We see the EEOC no longer fighting for women, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. In fact, 300,000 women lost their jobs in the first couple of weeks, mostly Black women, from the federal government. We see the EEOC standing on the side of white male plaintiffs, arguing that they have been racially discriminated or denied an opportunity that the law clearly had provided for the most qualified, in fact, overqualified people of color and those who are represented by disparate groups. In this justice space, what does the confirmation of Todd Blanche mean to you?
It's a betrayal of the very idea of justice, I think, given the way in which it's been documented that he has violated the law on every turn. He's still fighting litigation for his failure to meet the stipulations of the Epstein Transparency Act, for example. But the way in which he has violated law, even representing the president as his personal attorney, the history of the Justice Department under Trump, they started out by getting rid of the Inspector General positions, those who were the independent voices and independent watchdogs. So the independence of the Department of Justice has certainly been now almost enshrined with each pick that Trump makes. And just as you thought that some of the Republican senators were actually going to vote no, even though some of them politically have no more to lose, they voted yes. So again, I asked the question, something was more important to you than the rule of law. And I really hope the American people are asking themselves this question, why did you vote in this way and continue to hold both elected officials and their parties accountable? It's just a travesty in justice when we can no longer almost trust the courts, the ones that we count on to interpret and insist on the constitutional interpretation of the law. It's literally letting the fox into the hen house. It's it blows the mind that this is happening. It just really blows the mind. Just when you think it can't get any worse, it does.
Madam President, do you think that those Republicans in the Senate were concerned at all about a weaponized DOJ, even for those senators who no longer have a reason not to show some level of profile and courage by opposing Todd Blanche, just another minion of the President of the United States, in an agency that was once independent?
No, I don't think. I think we're still talking about a soul issue where people don't have the courage simply to do what's right. Who knows what plans some of the senators who were primaried out of their positions have, but even in what they were demanding of Todd Blanche, to put in writing that slush fund would go away, they never questioned this crazy immunity with the IRS and tax bills. That was another part of the agreement. There was no holding to account, demolishing and dismantling that whole agreement. People like Susan Collins, I think, voted no because I think she felt she had space to sort of vote no because other people were going to do the work for her. But I don't have any confidence in anybody's moral rectitude right now. There's clearly something else that's going on. Racism in America is still alive and well. The class of those who make more money than others of us are still looking for those provisions and those privileges, and that's still more important, sadly, than the health and well-being of so many Americans.
Madam President, one of the issues I wanted to talk with you about, but I know that the hour draws near and I do want to give you an opportunity for that word of hope. So many of our primaries right now are really being cast as the DSA is too far to the left, the DSA is too far to the left. They're making some outrageous claims, and from my perspective, some of them are. But again, so many of these primaries are also the emergence of the economic message of the DSA versus the international impact of the American Israeli Political Action Committee and the sheer amount of money that they're spending on candidates. And we're watching them state by state lose in these elections. Is this a turning point in the Democratic Party, Madam President?
I think it is, and I think everybody better wake up and quit worrying about what labels people are using to frame their candidacies and look at the values and the issues that they're campaigning on. We have to get down to serious business and agree that the issues are the issues, the values are the values. And I think the word of hope comes when the American people will show up and participate and say, this is what we need, this is what we want. I don't care what your label is. I need you to be fighting for me. And I think this is a turning point for the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party needs to really wake up and smell the coffee and pay more attention to all the people, not just the paying people.
I appreciate that, Madam President. Looking forward to seeing you next Monday.
See you next time.
Thank you so much for all of your service. She is the General Minister and President of the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ in the United States and Canada. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. When we hear each other again tomorrow, it will be Tenacious Tuesday. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
KBLA 1580.